Hello, and welcome back to the Inspired Mindset Podcast. Today's episode it's going to be heavy. It's about grieving, and I'm going to share my own personal experience of loss, um, both a recent experience of my grandmother who passed away, and also the loss that I experienced in 2020 in October when we lost a baby at 13 weeks. And so I'm going to share with you 4 points of how I was able um, to heal. And those 4 points briefly are giving yourself the space to grieve, to cry, to let it out. And the second part is not being afraid or not feeling like guilty when you experience moments of joy or happiness or gratitude, because when we're grieving, we can have those moments. It's like this contrast that we can feel where we're devastated and then we're also like grateful, or we're crying, but then we're also laughing. We're thinking about memories, and it's this like mixture that we might feel, and that's okay. Like, don't be afraid of it. Allow all of the emotions in, and really walking through the two perspectives that we all get to decide between how we want to look at life and death. And so I'm gonna talk about that, and how even after our loved ones pass, if you choose to accept that our body dies but our soul lives on forever, then you have the ability to connect with your loved ones that have passed. And I'm going to share how I've done that, and how that's also supported me in the grieving process. So let's dive in just a moment. So the death that I've experienced of my grandmother has been so challenging. She was 98 years old, so she lived a beautiful, full life. She had so much love. She had so many grandchildren and great grandchildren and even great great grandchildren. And my 5-year-old and 3-year-old were very close with her. They love her so much, and I know that they miss her tremendously. And it's been hard to have that missing in our lives now. She was such a presence in our lives and such a big part of our life. And also, I wanted to share how I experienced grief in a miscarriage when this was in 2020. I got pregnant during the summertime, shortly after COVID had started and things were closing, and I got pregnant, and we were just so thrilled to have a third baby coming. And my 3-year-old and 5-year-old, they were, I think they were 2 and 3 at the time when I got pregnant. And they were just so happy and excited to have a little brother joining us. And, I think we waited till like 10 weeks to tell them. I remember at that 10-week appointment, the baby was like kicking and moving and just like so alive and so full of energy. And so we were just so thrilled and thankful. And everything appeared to be going well. And so we made plans. We named him. We named him Daniel. We were like starting to look at things that we were going to need, and just kind of creating our life with this third child. And what ended up happening at 13 weeks, I went to the doctors again, and this appointment was a lot different. There was a little more questions like, when was your last appointment? Because this was, I was seeing a specialist at this 13-week appointment. So the ultrasound where I saw the baby moving and kicking, they were like asking like, when was that? And oh, that was at 10 weeks. So that was 3 weeks ago. And it was just weird questions. And the doctor came in and was like, your baby stopped growing. Your baby is, there's no heartbeat anymore. And I was just so devastated. I remember just feeling like the life had gotten knocked out of me, and definitely was not expecting that news at all, and was shocked. And I remember going home and telling my husband and just crying, and really just crying um, kind of nonstop for a week. And then I remember after a week being like, oh, I haven't cried yet today. And then I would, start crying and feeling the sadness of loss, um, that pain that you feel when you lose someone. And, um, the first part of grieving is giving yourself the space to grieve. Give yourself the space to cry, to feel those emotions, to feel the sadness of losing someone that you love, whether it's a child in a miscarriage, or someone who you spent years of your life with. For me, it was um, almost 40 years that I got to spend with my grandmother, and my children spending the early years of their life with their great grandmother. And holding them and feeling them, whether it's in your belly or physically holding them in your arms. And then there's something gone. Their physical body, their presence is no longer there. And so allowing yourself that grief, feel the sadness, feel the pain. Like, it's okay. I think so many times we don't want to feel the pain because it's uncomfortable. Feeling pain, feeling heartbreak, feeling sadness, like it doesn't feel good. It feels uncomfortable. It hurts. And so sometimes we want to run away from it, and maybe we numb ourselves with alcohol or other things, or we watch TV to drown out the reality that we're feeling. Or maybe we take on a lot of different things to keep ourselves busy so that we don't sit with the pain. Or maybe we overeat. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do to numb ourselves because we don't want to feel the pain because it's uncomfortable. And not only is it uncomfortable, but maybe in the house where you grew up, you weren't allowed to experience all of your emotions. You weren't allowed to experience them, to express them. And so when someone dies, when you lose someone in your life, you don't know how to feel the pain. You don't know how to properly grieve the person because you're so afraid to feel the emotions. And I just want to encourage you that if you are experiencing a loss, or even if you have experienced a loss and you never were able to properly grieve them, that you give yourself some space to feel that pain, to feel that sadness, that it's okay. Like, you are safe to feel all of the emotions that we feel as humans. And you're safe to feel it. And that you were made to feel all of the emotions, that, we can experience true joy and happiness because we know the sadness and the pain and the discomfort. And so really just giving yourself that space. And then the second um, sort of way that I was able to properly grieve was that I didn't let myself feel guilty or afraid when I felt happiness or joy as I was grieving. When I was grieving the loss of my son, of baby Daniel, when I was 13 weeks pregnant, I had At that time, my daughter had turned 4 years old, and my son was 3 years old, and or maybe 2.5. Yeah, I think he was 2.5, and my daughter was 4. And so I had these two, beautiful, just fun bundles of joy right with me. And so I would be crying over my son and grieving. And then I would have, my babies that were here with me, bringing me joy and making me laugh and making me smile, and sharing that loss with them. Being very open with them that, their baby brother had passed and that he stopped growing, and that, he moved on to another life, to heaven, to continue, his soul to continue on. And so I allowed myself to experience that joy and happiness with my other children. And for maybe you don't have other children, or maybe you have a loss of someone, but there's memories that you have of them, and you might be reflecting or thinking about the memories, and that makes you smile, that makes you feel grateful. Like, you think about the time that you spent together with that person, and you feel grateful, you feel love. Part of grieving, I think that allowing ourselves that space to feel the love, to feel the joy, to feel the gratitude, it's all part of the grieving process. Because the truth is that, when we lose someone that we love, we shared love with them, we shared memories with them, and so it makes sense to feel those feelings when we're grieving, and not being afraid of it or feeling guilty, but just allowing all of those emotions to come in. And, really, if you're kind of like, well, I don't know that I believe, that our soul lives on forever. I would just encourage you to look at that question, and really think about it for yourself, because really we have two choices that we can make. We can either decide that when we die, like, that's the end, and our essence, our being, is tied to this physical body, and so when the physical body stops, so does our love, our our soul, our being, like that essence of who we are. Or you can think that, aside from my physical body, from, my appearance, from, the matter that I am made up of, I also have memories, I have love, I have emotions, I have all of these various things that make up who I am. Does that live on? Does that part of me, that soul part of me, does that live on? And so you get to choose. Do you want to believe that you have a soul that's in your physical body, and that lives on forever? And for me, I believe that we are spiritual beings living a human experience temporarily, and that our spiritual being, our soul, our spirit, whatever it is that you want to call it, it lives on forever. And because I believe that, I also believe that we can connect with our loved ones who have passed, because they're not gone. Their physical body is gone from earth, but they are not actually gone. Their soul lives on forever. And so I want to share a story about when I found out that I lost my son at 13 weeks pregnant, how he continued to be a part of our lives in a very special way. So actually, the day before I found out, the day before I went to the doctors, we have a nice little backyard with trees and grass, and we tend to get birds that come in the backyard, and we really know all the birds, what they look like, and there are particular birds that are back there. Well, the day before I found out that I lost the baby, a new bird came, and he was sitting on my son's little T-ball that he has in the backyard. He was sitting on it. He was perched on it, and he was just looking inside the house. And I remember I looked out and I said, "Oh, look at everyone!" Like I was showing my kids and my husband, like, "Look at that little bird. It's like looks like a little baby bird, and he's sitting on Jordan's T-ball." And we all looked outside and we're like smiling at it and just so excited to see this new bird that we had never seen. And then it flew away. And when I found out that we lost the baby, every day that bird came back and sat on that T-ball and said hello to us. He would sing and look at us, and he's actually out there right now. I can hear the bird singing, and I saw him. He was perched on my son's little basketball hoop. But it would be amazing. Like I would be out there maybe sharing with some friends about how I was feeling and what I was going through as I was grieving and going through this miscarriage, and the bird would come like right as I'm talking about it. I remember one time I was in my driveway and I was talking to my mom about the baby and just going through, my emotions and what I was feeling. And I saw the bird perch on the mailbox and just stare at me and, do his little tweet tweet as I was talking about him. And it happened over and over again. And, you could just say like, oh, that's just a coincidence. Like every time you talked about the bird, he just happened to show up. But I don't think it was a coincidence. I think that there's something there. I think that there's a part of him. I don't know what you would call it, but a part of his soul, his spirit, that is choosing to stay around us and communicate with us in that way. And I also had a cousin that passed away, and she would come visit as a butterfly. And you can if you allow yourself to open to it, you can feel them. You can feel the love of your loved ones, like in your body, in your heart. There was a time where I started to just talk to my cousin and just say, are you around me? Like, do you want to connect with me? Because I feel like there's this calling that there's this special connection that we have. And like, is that you? And then I just felt like this warmness in my heart, like my whole body was just filled and my heart was filled with so much love. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like my cousin, she loved me so much. She was, I think she was like 14 years older than me. So when I was born, she was a teenager, and she really looked at me like her little sister, like her little baby cousin. And she ended up moving out of state when I was really young, but I have all these pictures and memories of her, but I didn't realize how much she loved me until she was gone. And I experienced her love in such a deep way after she had passed. And I believe that that's available to all of us if it's something that you desire. If you desire to connect with your loved ones after they've passed, I believe that it's possible. I believe that they are around us and near us, and that they want to communicate with us if that's what we want. If we don't want to, then they're not going to bother us. And it's not something that's scary. It's something that is just beautiful. And so if you are open to that, to connecting with someone, I would encourage you to start talking to them as if they were still here, and let them know how you're feeling. Let them know that you miss them, that you love them, and that you want to connect with them, that you would love to have some kind of connection with them. And that if it's possible for them to give you signs that they are communicating with you, to ask them to do that. And just be open to looking for the signs. I mean, sometimes it's an animal, it's a bird, it's a butterfly, and you'll kind of see it again and again. And it's like, okay, it's got to be more than a coincidence when it's over and over and over again. Like the bird, it was coming every single day. Every time I would be talking about my son's passing, the bird would come. And even, earlier as I was starting this episode, sharing about this, the bird came and he was out there. And it's been over a year since the passing of my son, and that bird still comes and still shows up. And, when my grandmother passed away, I was sharing a post on Instagram, and I was writing those, kind of those steps of like communicating with your loved one, letting them know how you feel and letting them know that you would like to, communicate with them and if they can give you signs. And as I was writing this post, I was editing like a little portion of it, and I saw the words "hi" that were typed on there that I didn't type. And I just got like chills, and I was like, "Grandma, are you communicating with you?" So some people will say that, because we are spiritual beings, and when you look at quantum physics and what we are actually made up of, we think, oh, I'm made up of matter, I'm solid, but really we're actually 99.99% energy. When you look at what we're actually made up of, it is mostly energy. And so that's why some people will say that our loved ones can actually communicate with us through technology, because we are energetic beings. And when we pass, we are all energy. And the matter, the body, is what remains. And so that's one way that they can communicate with us, is through technology. You hear lights flickering and things like that. So I haven't had any experience with that, but I did see that word "hi" typed out on my phone that I didn't write, as I was, communicating about this ability that we have, if we're open to it, to communicate with loved ones. And so I know this was a heavy episode. It was a lot to kind of talk through and share. But I hope it just gives you a little bit of hope and support if you are grieving, or if you have not had a chance to grieve someone, that it's not too late to allow yourself to grieve. And that if you are open and wanting to have communication, that it might be possible. I can't say that it's a guarantee. I can just say that from my own personal experience with 3 of my loved ones who have passed away, I have been so fortunate to be able to have some communication with them in one form or another after they have passed away. And so I believe it's possible for you as well, if that's something that you would like to experience. And I just want to remind you, if you are enjoying this show and you are learning and growing, to please go ahead and give me that 5-star review and let me know what you think. I would love to hear about it and share your review on an upcoming episode.